work. I know it's very scary, something I am deeply afraid of. Something that nobody who watches this channel will ever do. But as it turns out, these Touhou characters are way more successful when it comes to the terms of employment. So that made me think of the question, how many people in Gensokyo are actually employed? First of let's put some ground rules down. I will take any form of work as employment. We need canonical confirmation that they actually put their effort into something. Now, since I am assuming most of my audience consists of unemployed idiots like me, I will quickly need to define what actually counts as working. Work typically means performing tasks or services in exchange for compensation. In other words, if you're doing something productive that someone is willing to pay you for, that's work. So for this video, key aspects of a job is labor or effort. You're doing something, whether it's physical, mental, or creative. Compensation, you get paid. For someone else, most jobs involve working for a boss, a client, or customers. Thanks for that, ChatGPT. Lastly, no good video like this can go without a tier list. We have certified worker, when someone has clear confirmation that they are performing work in any form. No evidence. For some characters we could assume that they work, but have no confirmation or the definition doesn't suit them. Too young to work. Many people in Touhou are children, and kids working is considered a big no-no, at least by most. Lastly, we have confirmed Touhou fan, for characters where we have definitive proof of them not working, despite not being a kid. Also take everything in this video with a grain of salt. This isn't supposed to be super serious. Instead, it is supposed to be a light-hearted joke of a video. So please don't take any of the things I say, or the numbers shown, or the information provided serious, or at face value. So with all of those definitions out of the way, let's get right into it. Reimu, we already have to ask a big question here, one that will need to be answered to define the rest of this video. Does Reimu going around and resolving instances count as work? Yeah, that's mercenary work, but in our today's definition, mercenaries, they aren't really a thing anymore. Plus usually no one actually asks her to go and solve them, she just kinda does it. So no, it does not count as employment, it is more like a freelance gig. But luckily Reimu is saved from being unemployed, due to being a shrine maiden. And being a maid, or rather a personal assistant, counts as work. Even though she doesn't get paid a lot for it, she actually receives money. Marissa is an ordinary magician, and being a magician is also being an entertainer, which is a job. But, we don't really see her performing any cup and ball tricks. So just like for Reimu, magic is something she does in her off time, not a job. But she is also a shrine maiden, and thus it didn't matter anyways. Remilia, does Remilia own the Scarlet Devil Mansion? And if she does that make her a landlord? I mean, think about it, if I owned land and made a house that I live in, does that make me a landlord? I went back and forth on this. There is a difference between being a landlord and a homeowner. Remilia does not seem like she is interested in selling or renting the mansion to anyone, so does that make her unemployed? And I doubt Remilia is charging herself rent. So sadly no, Remilia does not count as a landlord. But then I thought about something else. Myling. Myling is the guard of the mansion, and a guard is very much a job. So if we assume that Remilia asked or demanded Myling to work as her guard, that would make her an employer, and thus that counts, right? Expect that it doesn't. Just because you employ someone does not mean you are employed yourself. So we are back at square one. So despite all my effort, Remilia is not employed. You could consider her a CEO Touhou, so great work Remilia. Unless she is charging rent from the others, you actually go into the secret employer tier. Also, I said the word employs way too much, so I gotta start using some synonyms. Sakuya, as we have already established with Reimu, being a maiden is considered a job, so Sakuya is a certified worker. Myling, same as Sakuya, being a guard is a job. Myling guards for Remilia, thus Myling is employed. Patchouli, I am kinda mixed on how to judge Patchouli. Does she work for Remilia? Is she simply living there? Does owning the library count as co-owning, or was that there before she came in? Many unanswered questions. But one thing to consider, every member of the Scarlet Devil Mansion has the goal of preventing Reimu or Marissa from getting to Remilia. So is she a guard? Or is she simply doing this to protect her library? Or is she guarding her because it's a favor? Many unanswered questions, so this one can really go either way. So I will make sure and go with no evidence. Koakuma, very similar to Patchouli. Does her helping out Patchouli in the library count as being on duty? Or is she simply helping out a friend? The wiki lists her occupation as helping out Patchouli. So is she helping her because she wants to or because she's ordered to? We don't know, so just like Patchouli we are going with not enough evidence. Flonde, you could make the same argument for her, as we did for Emilia. Maybe they co-own the mansion, who knows. But judging by the fact she rather locked her sister in the basement for a few hundred years, we can assume she is not paying rent. Cherno is a child and thus not working. She can freeze frogs all she wants, as long as she doesn't get any reimbursement out of it. It is a hobby, not a job. Deiyase, same as Cherno. Just a kid. Rumia, another fairy that is just a kid. I doubt wandering around aimlessly and eating humans counts as work, so no work for the child. Rin Satsuki, she doesn't exist, she isn't real, no work. Letty White Rock, I will just show you this passage from the wiki. That is literally me, no work. Chen is a kid, and Ran doesn't exactly strike me as someone who puts her through the coal mines, so no work for the kiddo. Lily White, another fairy, another kid that doesn't work and just does something. Prism River Sisters, they own a band together. Do they make money? Or do they just do it for fun? Considering they likely perform at the villages, is it safe to say that at the very least they got occasionally asked to perform somewhere, so it counts? Certified worker. Yomu Konpaku, Yomu is Yuyuko's gardener, bodyguard and fencing instructor. She works. Yuyuko Saigyo Uji, so Yuyuko. She seems more like she is just kinda vibing. I think it is safe to say we have the same situation as we did with Remilia. She is more of an employer than an actual employee herself. No proof of any work. Ran Yakumo, so, is it considered work when you are forced to do it? As Yukari's Shikigami, Ran must do whatever Yukari commands her to do, such as doing Yukari's chores or checking the Great Hakure barrier around Gensokyo for problems. So is this working or is that the other kind of work? I am just not going to question it, so yes, a confirmed worker. Yukari Yakumo, is a sage a worker? I know that's kinda like asking if God does 9 to 5, but I feel like establishing and keeping order got to amount to something, so yes, God is a confirmed worker. Suika Ibuki, does day drinking count as working? Yes, don't question it. Wriggle Nightbug, I didn't think at first she would be doing anything similar to the others. But no, she is a damn CEO. Wriggle was in charge of the insect notification service, in order to improve the social standing of insects. I don't care that her business went bankrupt due to AU overtaking her, it still counts. Miss Tia Lorelei, yes, indeed. Her grill is selling pretty well. Probably also the most chill job in Gensokyo. Kaina Kamishirawa, she is a teacher, so yes, very much employed. Nothing to add there. Tui Naba, again I would like to quote the wiki here, Tui is in charge of the bamboo forest of the lost, but her duties are unknown. So yes, Tui is working, we just don't know how or why. Raisinu Donge ni Naba, I knew I needed to go out and touch some grass after reading this passage, and got a visceral reaction. So yeah, Raisin is working, mostly as a test subject, but working nonetheless. Irinyago Koro, I think this one is pretty clear. She changes the moon for a living. Kagaya Aoazan, is being a princess considered being employed? Yes it is. Being any kind of official for sure is work. I mean, can you think of a singular worker who makes decisions for their space? Fujiwara no Moku, no. Not at all. This girl is just a depressed homeless woman who fights the president for fun. Ayashimai Meru, she literally put Wriggle out of business with her newspapers. She is a capitalist superpower in Gensokyo. She will literally sell any headline possible and probably doesn't even pay her employees. Yes, she's a worker, a too powerful one at that. Yuka Kazumi, no job from this girl, just planting flowers and brutally murdering everyone who would even just harm one little leaf. Not employed, just vibing. Alice Murgatroyd, tea drinking is sadly not an occupation, so I had to look at other things. But Alice is just a mood. She doesn't want to do the hard work of solving instances, she won't leave her house or interact with other yokai. She will only do the work, if no one else is doing it, or the problem isn't resolving itself. And to that I can relate. Medicine Melancholy, despite her name she is not a pharmacist. So yeah, another fairy that just kinda does whatever. Kamachi Onizuka, we went over this plenty of times already, doing someone else's work. If they do it for fun, no. If they do it because they have to, yes. Ikishiki, Yamaxanadu, she came to punish you for your sins. And doing God's work sounds like work to me. Shizuaki and Minoriko Aki, so the goddess of autumn leaves and the goddess of harvest. They will punish anyone who disrupts the autumn. Now, is it work when it is your life purpose? I know I didn't ask this for any of the other gods, but like when it's literally the only thing you do, I will count it. It's not like they will complain considering it's spring right now. Hina Kajiyama, okay, so, does this drill do anything besides act as a living scarecrow for the Yokai Mountain? Well, apparently she owns a stand where she sells Nagashibina dolls, but also apparently no one is buying them. Is that considered working? Yes, it is. Just because you don't make many sales doesn't mean it's not work. Nitori Kawashiro, she is an engineer and inventor. Mamiji and Yubashiri, I think at this point this has earned its own category. Guards and helpers where it depends if they do it for fun or not. But I will count it for her, since she is technically not protecting anyone specific, just the mountain. Sane Kochiya, this is literally just Reimu's reskin, all that could be said for her, can also be said for Sane, except that the Moria shrine is richer. Kanako Yasaka, not even a shrine maiden, literally just the owner of the whole damn mountain with the shrine. And she spreads the word of her gospel, which can definitely be considered work. So yeah, unlike Ramilia, owning the shrine doesn't actually disqualify her from being a worker. Suvako Moria, this is a very interesting case. Considering Kaneko is the de facto owner of the shrine, while Suvako is the de jure owner, so I think we can just apply the same logic to her as we did for Kaneko. Ikunogi, so the wiki says her occupation is envoy of the Dragon Palace. Definitely didn't need to Google what that is. An envoy is a person who is sent as a representative, delegate, or messenger from one government or organization to another. So yeah, that is the most cut and clear occupation yet. So there you go. Tenshi Hinanawi, her occupation is listed as celestial, so a human turned immortal, turned hermit. Now I don't know about you, but a hermit sitting in heaven all day, doesn't sound like hard labor to me. Kisume, her bio says she spends most of her time in a bucket, don't know if that counts as work. Yamam Karodani, oh hey look, it's another guard that may or may not be doing it voluntarily. Parsim Jahashi, professional bridge overseer, where can I get this job? Yugi Hoshiguma, a frat girl that spends most of her time drinking with other onis. Sounds like a good time, but not a professional one. So no work. Satori Komeiji, okay, since I know a certain someone is watching. This girl is a master of the Palace of the Earth Spirits, an anonymous book writer and even a damned detective. This is by far the character with the most occupations out of anyone. She steps ahead and speeds past literally everyone. I can hardly work one job. This girl is out here casually doing multiple jobs at once, that usually require people up to a decade of training. Rin Kanbayu. Again, let me just read this passage from the Bible, I mean the wiki.
Rin is a Kasha living in the Palace of the Earth Spirits. Her master is Satori Kameiji. Essentially, she lives day to day by stealing corpses from funerals to cart them to the former hell of blazing fires. She will not kill humans herself, though she pursues humans that are close to death, hiding stolen corpses in her wheelbarrow using a straw mat. or just generally collecting corpses she happens to run across.
Yes, she is a worker, because I am scared of what will happen if I disagree. Utsuho Ryoji, Nuclear Hell AC Unit. Look, if you can literally cool down the flames of hell, all by yourself, with just a little open air, you are sure to be a hard worker. Koichi Komeiji, her wiki article literally says occupation, none. This is the most straight to the point thing ever. The wiki literally did it for me. Nazrin, so Nazrin is the helper of Shu, which is once again the situation of not knowing if she does it for fun or for work. However, she is stated to also be the leader of mice, but, is being the rat messier a job? But it is also stated that Nazrin usually doesn't show up until Shu asks her to. So we can assume she actually works for her and is not just simping. Kogasa Tatara, so I didn't know that Kogasa was a blacksmith. This girl is a blacksmith? I guess she is, so yeah, employed. Ichirin Kumoi, she does physical labor and guarding with Unzan. I don't know how much Ichirin actually works or if she just pushes it all onto her cloud buddy. But having an assistant still counts as a worker. Unzan, speaking of assistants. Being someone's assistant is a very common job, especially of someone doing physical labor, so there you have it. Minamitsu Murasa, she's a captain. A captain is a job and she accepted the job from Byakuran, so yeah, she is most definitely employed. Byakuran Hijiri, so, let's talk about Buddhism. Byakuran is a Buddhist nun. The nuns I know very much count as employment. However, I do not know if the same applies to Buddhism, so let's find out. Considering Buddhism at its core is about renouncing worldly possessions, and how Buddhist nuns act, we can assume she does not get paid. However, she can receive donations, those however would also not be for her, but the shrine. So no, while you could consider a Christian nun a worker, you cannot say the same for a Buddhist. So no, unemployed by spiritual journey, Shu Torimaru, Shu runs into the same situation as Byakuran. Representing Buddha is technically work, but a Buddhist wouldn't probably identify themselves as someone who works, so yeah, like Byakuran, it depends on your definition of Buddhist materialism. Nuhuju, is scaring people considered an occupation? I wouldn't think so. Unless that scaring people part also includes taking the money from said people. And it doesn't appear that she is opening a horror house anytime soon, so no, Nu is not a worker, just a pranker. Hate time Kadu, Aya but weaker, yes she works. Aya took over everything with just newspapers, you are nothing but a replacement, when she is on sick leave. You don't even have the power of Canada on your side. Okay, speed round, this video is probably already long enough and we aren't even halfway done. And let's be honest, do you really care about these following characters? You probably don't. So unless I've got something to add, I will have to go over them a little quicker this time around. So get ready, if I skip over your favorite character, make your complaints now. Wait, no, not like that. Kyuko Keisodani, again we have a Buddhist priest on our hands. We already talked about this, can we call Buddhists employed despite their belief? And the answer is no. Yoshika Miyako, is a garden servant. Siga Kaku, has no work, she's a fairy, she's a hermit not a fairy, so homeless. Soganoto Jiko, also fairy with no work. Mononobe no Futo, she is a servant of Miko who burns down Buddhist temples in her free time. No work, just asunism. Toyoza Tomimi no Miko, so Miko. As we have learned through the manga, Miko is a politician who wants to make Gensokyo great again. Yes, this is real, this is approved by Zune himself. So yeah, Miko is a politician, leader and teacher. Momaizu Futatsuiwa, she provides loans and assistance to others, she runs a staffing agency, she also has her tanukis presumably collecting money for her. So yes, she is most certainly a worker. Hatano Kokoro, she manipulates your emotions and may cash in all your money in a game of poker, but no work for her. Wakasaji Haim, not a hermit but still homeless. Sikabanki, multiplying heads is not an occupation, no work. Kogero Imaizumi, being a werewolf is not an occupation either, no work. Benburnt Tsukumo and Yatsuhashi Tsukumo, she and her sister say they perform on their own. I don't know if they play for others or only for themselves, but I'm just going to assume they played for someone else at least once in their life. Saija Kijin, she had no work, but she always thinks the opposite of what others think. So does that mean she works? Since no one else considers her employed? But if she always thinks the opposite, does that mean she is also really happy to work, even though she doesn't? I'm just gonna give it to her. It's not like she's gonna agree with me either way. Shinmei Umaru Shukuna, she is a princess, which can be considered work. She was also a revolutionist, and is that considered work? She also didn't work for a while and instead lived in a dollhouse. It's a real philosophical question. Reiko Horikawa, she works with the Prism Rivers. As the fourth member of the band, since we considered them workers, we will do the same for her. And wow, double-dealing characters has a serious unemployment problem. Most of them don't work, and 2 or 3 of them are only based on the assumption that they play for others. Though if my assumption was wrong, everyone in this incident is unemployed. Sumireko Usami, her occupation is listed as high school student. I don't think I need to explain to you why school students aren't considered workers. Siren, okay, so I never looked into this character before. She works for the military? She is part of the dam infiltration operations. She is just casually working one of the most dangerous jobs out here. And then she dropped that and now sells dango. Either way, she is a worker and a real hard one at that. Ringo, same as Siren. Former Lunarian military informant turned dango saleswoman. Drummy Sweet, she is a manager. She manages dreams, but a manager nonetheless. Seigyun Kishin, just look at this piece of the wiki. I have no idea what I would assume she works. Clown Piece, is a child, gets her definitely real mother to do it for her. Junko, she purifies everything. Look, it may not be considered an occupation, since we don't have that. But if I take a look at myself, purifying that sounds like a ton of work. Hekatia Lapislazuli, I can find no evidence of her working. She is too busy teleporting between places and living in hell. June Yorigami, June is a con artist. The way she gets her money may not be the most lawful, but hey, scamming is making money, and per my rules that counts. For me it doesn't matter how you make your money, as long as you bring it to the table it counts. Shion Yorigami, Shion is a con artist too, like her sister, but she's more broke than me somehow. June is rich as hell and Shion stays poor. Doesn't matter how much money she makes, she still works. Eternity Lava, is a fairy that doesn't work. Nemya no Sakata, she lives alone in the Yokai Mountain, having no real interest in talking or doing things with others. Relatable, but not a worker. Orn Komano, is a guardian who may or may not be doing it voluntarily. Narumi Yatadera, she is described as a shut-in introvert. That's literally me, no work. Sotono Nishida, she is a servant. I'm assuming she is a helping servant, and not the ball and chain kind of servant. Maite Rider, same as Sotono. Okinamatara, once more, God does 9 to 5. Also like Yuakri, she also has 2 servants, though they are not related. She is also Flandra Scarlet's advisor, which I had no idea what that was supposed to mean. All she did was ask her to attack Yuma. So I think she counts. At the very least she has managed to get herself a hitman. Yuma Tautetsu, speaking of Yuma, she is described as a chairwoman, which I had to look up what that even means. The chair, also chairman, chairwoman, or chairperson, is the presiding officer of an organized group such as a board, committee, or deliberative assembly. So yeah, that's a worker. I didn't know she was that important. Good for her. Jesus, this list of characters is so damn long. I think I need to speed it up even more, with how much content there is. Hey, editing me. How far are we into the video? I'm sure you are tired too, so let's speed this up, shall we? Iku Ebisu, Iku is considered a leader and idol, that's a worker. Yurumi Ushizaki, Yurumi goes fishing and sometimes sells those fishes, so she is a worker. Kutakanai Watari, gatekeeper of hell, sounds like a black metal fan, but she is guarding. Basically just smiling but way more hardcore. Yachi Kiku, she is matriarch of the Kaikitsu family. The term does not necessarily imply that the matriarch is the leader or decision maker, but her value lies in her presence and influence. But that doesn't matter, because she is the only one where we have confirmation that she really is a slave keeper, though I have my suspicions on Ayu in that regard. I'm counting it. Mayumi Jutugu, head of the Haniwa Army Corps. There have been a lot more war generals since the third Windows generation. Keiki Hanayasushin, she has the ability to create idols. She doesn't work, but she lets her idols work, as they are said to, for example, help you decorate your home. She technically doesn't do the work, but the work wouldn't get done without her ability, so I'm counting it. Saki Kurokoma, same as Yachi, she is the matriarch of the Kiga family, and thus also a slave keeper. Wow, everyone was a worker in this game, impressive. Though some of them, perhaps not. For God's sake, you said you were gonna speed up, but you didn't speed up at all, god damn it. Look, I'm sorry. But I will have to explain some things, editing me. No, this video is already long enough, for the love of God make it quick. Listen. We are at only one game and a few characters away from the PC98 cast. Once those show up we can go a little quicker, okay? It's not like people care for those characters, so we gotta go for like 5 more minutes and then we are closer to the end, alright? Mike Gautakuji, her wiki page says, happily unemployed. This is even more on the nose than Koishi. Takine Yamashiro, she is described as a natural leader, which sounds more like a natural talent. I am assuming she is just good at talking and not a full-on ambassador. Sanioko Makusa, a bookmaker and casino owner. I think she and June would get along greatly. Misu Marutamatsukuri is a Magotama crafter. A Magotama is a stone like this, which is supposed to have spiritual powers. At least I learned it that way in Ace Attorney. Tsukasaku Damaki, she is literally just a Sakuyari skin, working for Megumu. Megumu is Inumaru. Originally I wanted to say she is the same as Remilia, to finish off the reskin joke, but I can't. She is the great Tengu, the leader of the Tengu. So basically a president. Chimata Tenkyu, she is more of a trader and less of a seller. She doesn't like profits, so no, not a worker. Momoyo Himemushi, not employed, a good miner, sometimes trader. She could become a Minecraft speedrunner probably though. Sun Baitan, I didn't read Journey to the West, nor did I play Black Myth Wukong. But I doubt there is a chapter where Sun Wukong works in retail. Inoko Mitsugashira, her occupation is unknown, but she was completely fine with joining a war faction. Shiyari Tenkajin, she would rather chill in blood pools than work. No working here. Hasami Yomotsu, her job is luring people into hell, so since we asked if God works 9 to 5, now we need to ask if Satan does tours to hell, so as long as she is employed by whoever owns hell at the moment, she is a worker. Zanmunipaku, so, she used to sort of hell, like it's nothing. But she then just stops and now chills with the hell dwellers. I now have a new word for basement dwellers. I think dweller of former hell suits me much more. Alright, we are here now. We have covered all the characters of the games. Expect the PC98 cast and the manga characters and those who I deemed not important enough. Since there are so many, and most of these aren't very interesting, I will go over these guys very quickly. All the characters that only get mentioned, where very little is known about them, will be skipped too. Or do you really care about Mizue no Yuranoshimako? A fisherman who is mentioned in a flashback in Cajun Lunatic Renegade. Rinosuke Morikika, Rinosuke owns his antique shop, selling you stuff you most definitely need. Just another retail worker in Gensokyo. Laika is a dog. Which isn't a job, but I felt that was important to mention. Fun fact, this dog was named by Rinosuke, after the Soviet space program dog. Laika was a dog that was shot into space, during the space race. Which also means that this dog confirms that the Soviet Union is canon in Touhou lore. 3 mischievous fairies that have an alcohol problem, doing absolutely nothing all day. They spend their entire lives looking for ways to get more alcohol. Dream life, but not employed. Raisinbu Getsushu, she is a Lunar Defense Corps trainee. A student is not employed. Watatsuki no Toyotime, leader of the Lunar Defense Corps, very much a job. Watatsuki no Yoriheim, also leader of the Lunar Defense Corps. Keisin Ibaraki, another sage, so another god. We count them as workers. Kosuzu Motori, Kosuzu is a part-timer that works at Suzunan, a library specializing in books that appeared in Gensokyo from the outside world. Yeah, that will do it. Misachi Miyagiguchi, Misachi dislikes the lack of chaos in the current Gensokyo. Is that a worker? No, she is just really bored and wants to spread as much chaos as she can. I mean, look at her. Would you trust her? Mioi Okunoda, she's the poster girl of Gaidontii. This means that she is a representative of the bar. She doesn't seem to actually be the one owning the bar, but is seen delivering the drinks to customers, so she's considered the waitress. Maribel Hearn is a student. Students are not employed. Renko Usami is also a student that isn't employed. Hidenoa Q, she is a chronicler. A chronicler is someone who records historical events as they happen. Alright, here comes the PC98 cast. I promised my editing self I wouldn't dwell on these too long, otherwise this video gets delayed by another month. So I am going over these in lightning speed. PC98, highly responsive to prayers. Singyoku, Kongra, Yu Ugan Magan, Elis, Kikuri and Sariel. The characters in highly responsive to prayers don't talk nor do they have profiles, so we know next to nothing about them, and thus nothing about their work, at least in the canon, so we give all of them no evidence. Mima is an exception, since she also appears after this game. Though we have more information on them, none of it includes work. But I guess when you are a dead ghost, you don't really have a reason to work, now do you? Genji is a turtle. Unless being ridden by Reimu counts as work, this turtle is no worker. Rika is an engineer. Ellen, witch. Her occupation is witch, seems more like a title to me, but go off I guess. Kotohime, she's a princess that calls herself a police officer. Now I don't know about you, but personally I wouldn't call myself a police officer, if I wasn't at least interested in working as one. So I let it count. Kana Anabral, she is a poltergeist produced by an unspecified mentally unstable girl. No work. Rikako Asakura, Rikako is an unspecified scientist. A very good one at that, the only scientist who doesn't rely on magic. Which is for some reason important information. Shiori Kita Shirakawa is a graduate school alumnus. Which is a fancy way of saying former student. But she is now an assistant professor. Umami Okazaki, Umami is a professor in the field of magic. Dangzun really wanted to make his characters smart in the beginning, huh? No fairies, no yokai who want to overtake the world. Just some university graduates right here. Orange, she is orange, and that's about it. Nothing else is known about her. No work. Orange, Kurumi, Ellie, Magetsu and Gengetsu, nothing is known about any of these characters. Magetsu could be a maid, but that's only going against her appearance alone. And knowing Zune, who put a magician in an apron and doesn't know why either, we can say no evidence for this entire game. Sarah, not enough info. Louise, not enough info. Yuki, not enough info. Mai, not enough info. Yumeko, not enough info. Shinki, also not enough info. I'm joking. Shinki is the one who made Makai. She is literally just the creator. I don't know about you, but greeting the world seems like a pretty big job to me. But, she did indeed allow the Makai Tourist Agency to organize trips to Gensokyo for Makai demons, which caused problems for Gensokyo's residents. So Yashinki, who is basically Satan, or God, or both, just sold it as a tourist attraction, and with that we are done. We have gone over every single character that was important enough to be mentioned. Now I know that most of you probably just skipped ahead to this spot, so let's get down those statistics. What is the employment rate in Gensokyo? I put it all into one spreadsheet, typing down the numbers, and it came out to 77 certified workers, 31 with no evidence, 14 who were too young, 29 who don't have a job, and finally 2 people who are too Buddhistic to be employed. That comes out to an employment rate of 72.64%. If we include the no evidence camp into the mix, then Gensokyo has an employment rate of 56.20%. So depending on who you ask, what your definition of work is, and for some reason you actually care about this topic, you could say that every third person in Gensokyo is unemployed.